Please welcome Bernard Fowler.
Yeah.
Bernard Fowler.
What's happening, gentlemen?
How you doing?
How y'all doing?
We're doing good. How are you?
Right on, right on.
Good, good. Well, it was a real pleasure, a joy, in fact, to make your acquaintance.
Thank you very much.
Now, Keegan wasn't, I mean, we do a lot of spoofs here on the show. Half the time, I would think, perhaps even closer to 90% of the time, people don't know if we're on the level or not. But this is actually really happening. You are an amazingly gifted, profound, and prolific musician who has, as Keegan pointed out, been touring with the Rolling Stones since Steel Wheels, I think it was? Or thereabouts?
My first gig with the Rolling Stones was Mick Jagger's first solo record, She's the Boss.
Oh, right, yeah. And before that, though, in years after, you played for an incredible array of very expressive musicians.
Motorhead, Ozzy Osbourne,
Alice Cooper.
Alice
I've got
Cooper.
down here. I've got
Yoko Ono.
Yoko Ono, Public Image Limited.
Bootsy. In fact, I bumped into Martin Atkins yesterday, who was a drummer for them for many years. And we've had him on the show. Bootsy Collins, you played with? What's it like playing with Bootsy? What's he like?
I did a recording with Bootsy Collins. It was a lot of fun. He is that guy.
Yeah.
He is that guy. Yeah, baby bump.
And many others, and we'll get to that during the course of the interview.
Cool.
But I want to start off because I think that a lot of people are just sort of blown away by the work that you've done with the Stones. But I was blown away listening to your new album, Inside Out.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I've listened to it now twice. I'm calling it right now the best album that I've heard this year.
I'm getting ready to hug your neck.
No.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. I'm not blowing smoke.
You hear a lot of music, so that's a hell of a compliment. Thank you very much.
I'm not underestimating it because I was listening to it, and first of all, it speaks to me.
Wow, you just gave me goosebumps.
It speaks to me on a personal level. When I was I'm a lifelong musician. I've played music all my life. It's all my life. I do the radio shows just because I feel a sort of social obligation to do something in these troubled times.
Right on.
My real thing, my
fans
main thing
demand
is
it.
music. Our new album, the Flabby Trio, is a 5-disc set. It's close to 8 hours worth of music.
Wow.
It's my whole life. So everything that I've ever experienced that's truly joyful in my life has been
music.
through music.
Beautiful.
And listening to your album, first of all, when I was a kid in high school, I was the guy. All my friends were listening to like Foreigner and Boston and what's the other one?
Journey.
That's Journey. That's the one. Journey was like, oh my God, have you heard Steve Perry's vocals on Discovery? I'm like, no, I haven't, because I was busy listening to. And I swear to God, I like things like Zappa and Velvet Underground. Live 1969 was on my player almost all the time. On my Zenith Allegro Wedge.
Your what?
Stereo, which is a wedge.
Zenith
the
Allegro.
coolest stereo of all time.
I had an Emerson Hi-Fi.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay. So you old school hi-fi. Victrola. I'm almost old enough to go back to Victrola days.
Man.
But I also listened to, and I was the only one. First of all, people were looking at me like I was a complete freak, which I probably was, for listening to the Velvet Underground. Be like, dude, yeah, check this out, man. This heroin song, it's gonna blow your mind. But I was also listening to the Last Poets. I swear to God, I had them on vinyl. And a friend of mine, who his father was a communist, and he turned out to the Last Poets.
And he loved it.
Gave me the album because he saw me sort of like growing into a new musical awareness. And I wore the grooves off on my Last Poets album. I still have the vinyl disc, original disc that I had from back in the high school days. And I would listen to, I can't say half the titles from the album in polite company. I wouldn't want to anyway. But the
on the subway.
On the subway. One. Yeah, that's the radio friendly. Because I felt the man digging on me. I felt the man digging.
That was good one. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in a good house.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Right on, man.
And I heard was the first one on the we got your EPK,
Mm-hmm.
and the first track I heard was a song from
Tie You
Undercover.
Up.
Tie You Up. And so like the very beginning, I was notes, the whole vibe. It's the vibe that it
Took
really
you there.
gets me.
It took you
on
there,
the
didn't
album.
it?
It absolutely did. I was like, oh my, what happened here? No, I love the Stones. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
dearly love the Stones. But Tie Me Up, I remember from Undercover as being sort of, it was a cool underappreciated, I think, rocker.
I think the whole album was.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. And there were a lot of like gems on there, and I love Undercover, and Tie You Up was a great song. But listening to your version was just like, oh my God, someone's still alive in this world. It's like it was speaking to me as an individual, like saying somebody's still cares, somebody still emotes, someone's still honest with music, and
Man,
really
you're killing me. You're killing me, man. You're killing me.
I'm telling you the honest truth, and I thought just from the first few notes, I was like, this is already like my favorite album, and I knew what was coming. And let's take a step back to explain for our listeners, because this album is a collection of Rolling Stones cover songs.
It's
Kind of.
It's Rolling Stone lyrics.
Right, because it's not. It's a combination with what how I experienced it, and with what I read of other people talking about the album, a deconstruction.
Exactly.
Of the original songs.
Exactly.
And, I know all the songs. They're mostly deep cuts. You do Sympathy for the Devil on the thing.
Yeah.
But they're mostly kind of deep cuts that people would be discovering for the first time.
Yeah.
Just on first blush.
They're not the popular ones.
Yeah, yeah. Which is also for, a diehard Stones fan like myself is great, because I love the deep cuts.
Right.
Most now at this point, because everything else is
right.
so many spins.
Yeah.
But you do like Dancing with Mr. D.
Yes.
Which is the opening track on Goat's Head Soup, which was a great track. It's kind of this sort of slinky Jagger, doing his thing. And it's got this great groove to it.
Yeah.
But you've reinvented it. I mean, it's not. It's a whole new song.
That's
So tell us about-
That's why the record's called Inside Out. Where do I start? Where do I start? When I started doing this record, I already knew that I would not do any of the popular cuts. I was not going to do any of them. I was going into the catalog. The only song that I knew I was going to do is Under Cover of the Night. I knew I was going to do that because it's a strong lyric content. And when I was growing up in New York, well, not just me, but I think everybody in the country were bombarded with the Contras and the Sandinistas.
Sure. Oh yeah.
It was on the news every day.
Right.
And so I thought, you know what? That's number one. And then I took the Rolling Stone songbook and started reading lyrics, and anything that had a strong lyric content, I'd gravitate to. It was not a plan to do 4 songs from Under Cover of the Night. It just happened that way.
Oh, wow. Right on. Well, I had, when I was listening last night and this morning to the album, I also rediscovered the Stone songs saw them in a totally different light. The one that actually, now, there were so many powerful experiences when I was listening to this. That it's hard to isolate any one of them, but I'll try my best. The Sympathy for the Devil.
Yes.
Just to take a little sidestep here.
Okay.
I'd always listened to Sympathy for the Devil through the character of Mick Jagger, because he's such a powerful exponent of his own songs that I inextricably related to the song itself through his voice.
Right.
I kind of always thought of it as being Mick Jagger adopting a sort of devilish persona for himself. But when I heard your version, and I don't know if this is what he had intended when he wrote it or not, and I've listened to the song a billion times,
right?
As everybody has, but never thought of it until I heard your version of what if Sympathy for the Devil was us giving sympathy to our devil, which is this evil empire that we're all immersed in, the ruling elite, whatever you want to call them, and the evil that they create, and our inability to be able to rise up against it and even recognize it or do anything to protect our own humanity and freedom.
Right.
And that's our sympathy. Us.
I understand what you're saying.
For the real actual devil in the world.
The world, you're right.
And I was like thinking, like, oh my God! It opened my eyes to the whole meaning of the whole meaning of that song. It was just an incredible experience.
You know, that's been something that a lot of people have said.
Mm-hmm.
They, especially hardcore Rolling Stone fans like yourself, they said, you know, I've heard these songs 1,000 times, but it's not until now, with Inside Out, that I'm hearing them.
Yes. Yes.
I think most people get lost in the riffs, get lost in the Rolling Stone funk.
That's right.
They're too busy shaking their booty.
And the personalities.
And the personalities.
It's Mick.
It is Mick, that's right, and Keith.
Talking to us from their bigger-than-life perspectives. It's difficult to separate.
And
that.
it is bigger than life.
But your reinterpretations are something else. Let's go back to the main subject of what that was. How did you come up with this whole idea? Tell us about the process of building this album.
Well, when I was finishing my last solo record called The Burra.
Yeah.
As I'm finishing that record, as I always do when I'm finishing a project, I'm thinking about the next project. There were a few things that I've wanted to do. There are still these projects that I have to do. But the spoken word thing just kept coming up. It stayed at the front of my mind.
Right.
And I did a show at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a tribute to the Rolling Stones, and Chuck D was going to be performing that day. He missed the plane.
Oh.
And Steve Jordan, who happened to be the musical director, I said to him, you know what, I've been playing with this spoken word idea. I said, if Chuck D doesn't show up, I'll do it in spoken word.
Oh, right.
And I did it at the rehearsal. He said, cool, man, let's do it during the show. Chuck D did show up, but I still did it anyway.
Right on. Nice.
So it stayed in my head. And then at a rehearsal, I was at rehearsal during the last leg of this tour. Well, not the last leg, but. And I was practicing my conga, and somebody yelled out a song we would play for sound check. And I just started repeating it, you know, doing it in a spoken word form. And all the band kind of stopped and looked at me and kind of smiled. And Mick said, Bernard, I've heard Rolling Stones songs done many ways. I've never heard it done like this.
Right on.
And I said, well, when the tour is over, I'm going to cut it. He said, that's a good idea. And, so, you know, true to my word, I did.
It's brilliant.
Nice.
What's it like doing a Stones interpretation of a Stones song? And
You know
being
what?
able to say to the Stones, guys, what do you think?
Right, exactly.
You know what? I
It's
didn't.
gotta be gratifying.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't ask guys, what do you think? I went in and I did it. I did it, and
No, I meant what they thought of the outcome.
what they
Like,
thought of the
you know,
outcome. Well,
yeah.
I'm not sure if Mick has heard it. I know he's heard about it. I gave him a copy of the CD at rehearsal, so
Yeah.
he might still be listening to it. But early on, when I was in a very rough state, I saw Keith in New York, and I played it for him
Yeah.
in its rough state.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, damn, Fowler, you went deep. And then I met a journalist from Rolling Stone magazine, and he said that Keith, he asked Keith about it, and Keith said he loved it.
Oh, wow.
So that's where it is so far.
Oh, that's wow! What a great
And I love
experience.
hearing that. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
awesome, man.
All right, so back to the nuts and bolts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I don't want to, for those that are listening, I think I've equated this album pretty honestly and forthright, saying it's by far the best album I've heard this year.
I love that, man. Say it again.
It is the best album I've heard.
Damn,
in
I
a
love
walk.
I love that. Thank you.
In fact, it's the best album I've heard in longer than that. Really, that's how much I love what I heard, and the whole feeling, and again the vibe. But it's also a diverse album. There are a lot of spoken word things that dominate throughout the album, but And I looked up some of your experience in history. You're a diversely oriented musician with a long history, outside the boundaries of just your work with the Rolling Stones. I mean, you had a couple of bands in your early sort of career. You were working for the Peach Boys.
That's right, New York City Peach Boys.
Yeah.
Kind of like the inventors of garage and house music.
Right.
The first celebrity DJ was part of the band. DJ Larry Levan.
Right, yeah.
Was part of the Peach Boys.
I
And
listened to a little bit of that, and another sort of like a disco-ish type of band. I forget off the top of my head that you were doing for house music.
I saw there was one called the Smurfs. I kind of like looked it up.
oh
it was like a
my
novelty
God,
track
you guys went
with the
way
Smurfs.
deep.
You
know,
what was it
band
like
called
working with the Smurfs?
The
by the way?
Smurfs.
I hear
Oh
that
my
Papa
God.
Smurf
You know
really,
what?
Really likes the Smurf flavor. I mean, the
Oh
Smurfberry
my
flavored
God,
schnapps.
you found
Is it
that.
Is Smurfette loose? Is it
Smurfette's a real diva.
She's a slut.
You heard it first here on the
Can I get her number, bro?
I can help you out.
All right, let's do
Oh
that.
man, I thought that was way under there. Now you know, funny enough,
Yeah.
that record, the Smurfs, was done. I did that record with the drummer from the Peach Boys,
Okay, yeah.
and that record was made at the beginning of hip hop.
Oh, okay.
That was made during that time. That was the beginning of hip hop when that record was made.
Oh,
No
right
kidding.
on.
No kidding.
Wow.
No kidding.
Well, you know, I mean, that's what I'm trying to say to our listeners is that your work has transcended a lot of different. I mean, I think variety is sort of like a hallmark of your efforts in music. I mean, diversity. I listened to a little bit of your first solo album, Friends with Benefits.
Friends with Privileges.
Privileges. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Friends
all right.
with Benefits is
This
what I
is
was
the
looking
same
for
thing.
Friday night also, last night also. I was listening to Friends with Privileges while trying to get Friends with Benefits.
Exactly.
And striking out with the benefits, but scoring with the privileges, as rough as that can be. But I mean, it's a balls out rocker. I mean, the songs I was listening to are like, you know, riff oriented hard rock here and there and stuff, and some funk with some.
That's
rock.
the way I like it. That's the way I like it.
It's great. I mean, but the diversity is part of. I mean, what I think is, near as I can tell, is made up a huge part of your character.
Absolutely right.
And it shows on the new album on Inside Out, because there are some grooves that are, you know, just sort of. And there's one song that kind of took me back to like a Truck Turner, Isaac Hayes kind of feel on it. I jotted it down. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. But I mean, there's some funk, jazzy types of tunes here.
Yeah,
and there.
I'm trying to think
There's
what
two
tune that
versions
was.
of Dancing.
There's
with
two
Mr.
versions
D.
of Dancing with Mr. D. That's
One
true.
of them is sort of a jazzy.
That's right.
vibey, and Sister Morphine's also a jazzy.
That's
vibey,
right, very much
sort
so.
of feel. Sister Morphine, by the way, when I was listening to it, you do the one line from Sister Morphine about, which was always a favorite of mine from the original version.
That's right.
Sweet Cousin Cocaine.
Sweet cousin cocaine.
That's right. He said, when he
Lay
said
your
cocaine, it's
cuckoo
so great.
hand on my head. Come on.
It's so great, man.
Sister Morphine, you better make up my bed.
Well, but again, a juxtaposition of the original, because when the Stones were doing that back, you know, on Sticky Fingers,
Right.
we all kind of knew that it was just Jagger talking about, you know, an actual morphine experience with him or his friends, whatever it might be, or at least that's how we felt.
Or all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, right, exactly. But now, I mean, I'm sort of, with the rebirth of the song that you've given it, I'm sort of thinking that it's like a commentary on what's going on in society with opium problems.
You know what,
with drug problems.
man? I'm so glad I'm here because you're hitting it right on the head. You know, because, you know, not only was the strong lyric content important, it was important that the subject matter could reflect exactly what's happening now and where we're at now in the world.
Yeah, and it spoke to me, and I felt like, you know, I never, well, certainly back in the 70s, nobody was thinking drugs were even bad. I mean, you know, at that point, I mean, we've learned, and Iran-Contra was, you know, talking about that, bringing it all full circle to that, was one of the times that we found out that the, you know, very possibly the CIA
was
dealing
funding the
drugs
war
through
Central
Pablo
and South
Escobar,
America.
Yes.
selling, you know, crack and coke to people in the
Yes.
streets of
In the
LA.
States, yeah.
That's
Taking
right.
that money,
That's
buying
right.
arms with it, and having the Israelis sell those arms to Iran for a bunch of money that they wound up buying more arms for.
Well, they were also selling it
illegal war in Nicaragua.
right, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Guatemala, man. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Joey's family's from Chile and
And Cuba,
You know
yeah.
what? So dig. So, System Morphine, Undercover of the Night.
yes, right.
Undercover of the Night. If you heard Undercover of the Night, the beginning of Undercover of the Night starts with a kind of a jungle soundtrack. You hear jungle sounds, and you hear, you know, explosions and stuff in the background.
Right.
After I completed the track, I added that to the front of it,
Nice.
and I wrote this dialogue. It's for a young girl. I wrote it in English, but I needed someone who spoke Spanish to do it. Now, every Spanish-speaking territory speaks Spanish a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had, you know, I asked some friends, and they would send me these girls. You know, some were from Mexico, some were from, you know, Guatemala, blah 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 blah. It just didn't feel right. And then I sat and I thought, and I said, nope, she's got to be from Nicaragua. So I called Carmine Rojas, bass player,
Oh, sure, yeah.
you know, from David Bowie and
David
Rod
Bowie, yeah.
Stewart.
And
Nice.
you did a tour recently.
We just did,
with,
yes,
Earl
yes.
Slick and,
That's right.
Charlie Sexton.
We can talk about that later if you want. So I called Carmine and said, Carmine, I need somebody to come to the studio, read this dialogue. I said, but she has to be from Nicaragua.
Okay. Yeah.
He said, okay, he calls back. He said, she's on her way. I'll meet you there.
Nice.
She comes in.
Good to know people.
It is. It is. It's a blessing. So I gave her the dialogue, and she sat and she read it, and she was a bit apprehensive. And I said, you know, what's wrong? She said, her name's Raquel. She said, Bernard, she said, I don't want it to favor either side. I said, well, no, it could be a young girl from either side. And she started to read. She's never been in a recording studio. She's not a singer. She's not an actress.
Right.
And she delivered that dialogue so powerfully. And I come to find out that she was raised in Nicaragua during the war.
Oh, man.
And she starts crying as she lives. So the next time you listen to that, think of that.
Wow.
She's the real deal.
Wow.
Did you use the take while she was...
Absolutely. That's the take on there.
Right. Wow.
And you know, you hear a guy say, you know, a soldier saying, you know, well, I see her, get her. That's Carmine Rojas
Ah, okay.
Wow.
as a soldier.
See, but that's what happens when you put energy like that out in the world. That's the type of response that you're going to get. You're going to get someone that you connect with in a way that's impossibly honest
Yes.
and direct. But I mean, that's the type of thing that I experienced with listening to this music. This was honest music beyond stuff that, I mean, it's just in today's day and age. And I listen to a lot of popular radio just so I can stay in touch. With
Stay in
things.
touch, and
It's downright disturbing. I feel like our media cultural apparatus is nothing more, and I talk about this all the time, sort of like, whether it's intentional or not, a third-party outsourced propaganda ministry for the ruling elite, and brainwashing the public to being, you know,
It's
mindless obedient
sad.
drones.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
Nicki
sad.
Minaj telling people to go into trap houses and bake pies, or to empty out their ATMs to get all their money to shower on pole dancers. And
It's crazy.
What's wrong with it?
21 Savage, 21 Savage saying that he's going to murder people because they dissed him on Twitter.
I thought he was talking
And
about
that's
ice.
on heavy rotation. That stuff's on heavy rotation.
And it's crazy.
You know, and it's tough. It's tough to see.
It
a world
is.
like
It's
that.
tough to see. You know, I have I have daughters. Thank God they're not so young anymore. I don't want my daughters looking up to a Cardi B.
Yeah.
I don't want my daughters looking up to people on the pole, to girls on the pole. I don't. I don't. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
What bothers me, I think, the most is that there's not equal representation for people that are true to their own organic creative impulse, such as yourself. And speaking of David Bowie, I mean, his music of the last 2 albums that he did, The Last Day and Black Star, have so much kinetic feel and vibe to it.
Depth.
So let's talk about your experience with touring on the tribute to Bowie. I saw a couple of songs on YouTube, and it looked like you guys were having a great party and celebrating his life and music.
It was
really
a great time. How I got introduced to doing that, a little more than 3 years ago, I got a call from Earl Slick, longtime guitar player for David.
Yeah, played all throughout the classic 70s and into the 80s and frequently after that.
Right, so Earl calls me and says, hey, man, the anniversary for Station to Station is coming up. He said, I want to go and tour it. I'd like you to come and sing.
Nice.
I said, man, I'd be honored. It's my favorite Bowie album is Station to Station.
Oh, it's a great one.
Yeah.
And so, we talk, and one day he called, and I just had to ask him. I said, hey, dude, I got to ask you, does David know you're doing this? And he starts laughing. He says, yeah, I knew you were going to ask that at some point. He said, I got to tell you a story. He said, I called David, and we're talking, and, and he says, hey, Slicky, who are you going to get to front the band? Who are you going to get to sing? And he said, well, I told him, I'm going to get Bernard Fowler to do it. And he said, he kind of, laughed and said, that's a great choice, Earl. He said, for a second, I thought you were going to get a skinny white guy to do Bowie-okie. And so, I mean, he was in such support of us doing this. He even posted it on his social media.
Oh, wow.
He was really supportive of it. And right when we started to do rehearsals, he passed away.
Oh, man.
Oh, nice.
And I said, Earl, did you know? He said, Bernard, I spoke to him every week. I had no idea. He never said anything to me about how ill he was. Yeah.
What a lot. But I don't want to burst your bubble, but bursting bubbles is what I do on
Hey,
the
man.
show because it helps with the ratings. Earl Slick called me first to front that band.
Well, you're not a skinny white guy.
Yeah, exactly.
They used to call me the Thin White Duke, but they replaced the U in Duke with the letter I. The return of the Thin White. Throwing darts in lovers' eyes.
All right.
Awesome.
I was looking at the credits on this album, the new one. You got Ray Parker Jr. on there?
Oh, well, let me tell you about that. You know what? I gotta say it because we are in Chicago.
I know.
The record was my initial idea. It was just going to be percussion and vocals.
Okay.
I played something for Steve Jordan. He came in, and then I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll add rhythm section. So I called my good friend, Chicago's own Vince Wilburn Jr., who actually played with Miles Davis, and he is Miles Davis' nephew.
Oh, wow.
So he said, "Yo, B, come over to the house, man. Come to the house." He's got a studio in his place.
Oh, really?
So I went there, and everybody in the rhythm section is from Chicago.
Well, yeah, because the bass player from the Stones.
Vince Wilburn Jr., a guitar player by the name of George Evans, Darryl Jones,
the bass player of the Stones.
and when you need some funky rhythm guitar, who you gonna call?
Flabby Hoffman.
Ray Parker Jr.
I'm always the second guy on the call list.
What are you gonna do?
So the rhythm section on that record, Chicago's finest.
Wow.
Chicago's finest.
Oh, wow.
And that was a good call. I'm so glad I made that happen because they played their buns off. That's them doing, the rhythm section, Sister Morphine, and And on trumpet on Sister Morphine, you know, the Don Cheadle, Miles Davis movie?
Yes.
This is the cat that did all the trumpet work other than Miles Davis that you hear his name. He goes by the name of Mr. Keon Harold on trumpet.
So no slouch.
No, not a slouch in
Guy
the
can
bunch.
handle Miles' chops. Probably can carry his weight musically.
And he happens to be from St. Louis.
Oh, okay. So you got the whole Midwest.
It all made sense.
Right.
The
all
I-55
made sense.
connection. That's tremendous. All right, so are we going to listen to a track here? Did you have one in mind that you wanted us to play?
You go. You pick it.
Well, you know, I want people to experience it the way I did with that first track.
Tie You Up.
Tie You Up. Now, Keegan, do you have all that sort of
ready to go.
Let's take a listen now. I think it's a good time for us to take we've been talking about it so much. I want people to experience this. Let's take a listen. Tie You Up.
To it, blind to it, it's like a thunderclap. Feel the prickles running up and down your back. Why so divine, the pain of love? You have to work for it, stay with it, pay for it, bust your ass, lie for it, cheat for it, forget about your past. Why so divine, the pain of love? You dream of it passionate, you get a rise from it. Feel the hot calm dripping your thighs from it. Why so divine, the pain of love? Sometimes you crave for it, cry for it. Women will die for it, looking back, cut the crap. Was it really worth the rap? It's hard to survive the pain of love. Ooh, I need time out, time to make my mind up. Substitute a line out. I'll be back next season with a bang. No release from jail, no parole, no bail. Hard labor, 50 lashes. Hard labor, money splashes. It's hard to survive the pain of love. The old maid is roughing it up, applying final touches. Even though she's late for the dance, I tell you tonight she's really gonna have a ball. She's gonna really tie me up. 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 Why so divine, the pain of love? Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Why so divine, the pain of love? That's what they call it, the pain of love. Tie me up, tie me up, tie me up. Why so divine, the pain of love? Don't hurt me, 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 don't hurt me. Why so divine, the pain of love? Why so divine, the pain of love? Why so divine, the pain of love? Why so divine, the pain of love?
gentlemen, we're back here. Now, I bet you a lot of people out there listening right now are totally blown away and looking for where they can get the album. Right
I
now.
sure hope so. Go to your local record stores. If they don't have it, demand it.
That's right.
Amazon, iTunes, and everywhere else.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, amazing stuff, man. And seriously, I mean, I put a link. I sent it to Keegan. Did you bring up?
Yeah, I got some links.
That last poet ones I brought up on the subway, so we can take a little listen. And this is literally an iconic album for me, and should
for
be
me.
for everyone. This is the stuff that should be on mainstream radio, getting heavy rotation spins.
Yeah.
So that people can get a real sense of the honest, uplifting, educational, and spiritual power of real music in the hands of real musicians. Take a quick listen.
Proud and determined to be free, 'cause plainly see my enemy. Yes, yes,
I mean, but it's the type of thing I can't really sing all the lyrics. You know, like I'm in my apartment, like going like, you know, N-words are scared of revolution. You can't like sing along. In fact, I find myself more often than not, you know, turning the volume down. Like somebody's going to hear it and I don't know what they're going to think.
Yeah.
But it's such amazing stuff, and to hear somebody today with that level of integrity, with this type of music, it's just it's seriously, honestly, a powerful experience for me. But let's talk about the Rolling Stones, your experiences with them a little bit as well. Before I get to that, I just want to make sure, while we're talking business a little bit, tonight you're going to be at Martyrs.
Yes.
And I don't want to be remiss in making sure that we take care of some business.
Yes, we're doing a kind of double CD release. Myself and saxophone player Tim Reese, who also plays with the Stones.
Okay.
He has a new record out. I have a new record out. So we decided, hey, man, let's do a double thing, you know, in Chicago. So it's a double kind of listening release party. Although my record's been released for, 2 months or 2.5 months already. Right. So we're going to do, a few songs from his new record. We're going to do a few songs for the first time from Inside Out.
Oh, right on.
Yes, and then we do some other songs where he took Stone songs and arranged them in a jazz format.
Okay.
So
that's gotta be fun.
I'll be singing, some of your favorite Stone songs in a jazz type of way.
Oh, that sounds like fun. That is really cool.
And it's tonight at Martyrs. I think it starts at 8:30.
Oh, right on. Now, Keegan,
That's 3855 North Lincoln.
Keegan and I were going to come. See if we can come down there and make it so we can hang out.
That
and
would
listen to
be
this stuff, 'cause
awesome.
I'd love to hear it live.
That would be
We're gonna
awesome.
put our tuxes on and
It's
walk on in.
It's something to hear. Tim has done a really amazing job putting these Rolling Stones songs in a jazz format, and it's not hokey. You know, a lot of times people doing this like, but this is really some serious stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I mean, let me frame it like this: people can go down to Martyrs, which is, by the way, a great venue. It's a really, it's a great wide stage, very good sound, and very artist-friendly people that run the place as well. So you picked a great place to do this.
Very cool.
But you could go down there and see members of the Rolling Stones touring band doing incredibly intense music. That's one drawing card. Or you can come meet members of the Flabby Hoffman Extravaganza. I'll leave it up to our listeners which is going to be the better drawing card.
It's up to you, listener. Yeah.
Right, exactly. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the Stones.
Sure.
A little band called the Rolling Stones that you happen to be affiliated with as well. Now, last night was the opening night of the tour?
Opening night of the tour at Soldier Field, and it was incredible.
Yeah,
it was incredible, man. Listen, I have the best seat in the house. I have the best seat in the house, and MJ was on fire.
Yes.
I just told you he was on fire. He hasn't missed a step.
Wow, that's amazing.
Still has the moves.
Oh,
70,
man.
like 75 or something like that.
Man.
He just had heart valve replacement surgery.
Yeah.
And now he's on world tour, prancing like Jagger Volt.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Dude.
Oh,
Wow.
yes.
That guy's Superman.
He's Superman.
Wow.
I read the set list online. You guys did Sad, Sad, Sad. Mm-hmm. First time
Oh.
since 02.
That's right.
Sad, sad, sad. That's a good deep cut. Sad, sad, sad.
That's right.
Yeah. Good
It
stuff.
was a good show last night.
I read just a little bit about the gig. There's a great where the Stones go out into the middle of the crowd. They have a big long like walkway, catwalk. Type
That's
of thing.
right.
They go out in the middle and do a couple acoustic songs.
That's right.
In the middle of the audience.
In the middle of the audience.
That has to be great.
In the middle of those. Great for them and great for everybody else. Wasn't that great for me? It's hard to hear them when they're out there, and I have to still sing from the stage, so it's like...
Is there a time delay?
Well, I'm sure there is slightly, but I had, give the sound man the eye. Turn it up. Turn it up.
So, I mean, I know the audience is probably crazy over being able to see you guys. But in terms of like the tours that you've been on before, how does this compare? How does this measure up? What's different about the new shows? Because you've been, was that correct earlier in the interview saying that Steel Wheels was your first tour with them?
Steel Wheels was my first tour.
So that's back in '80. I actually saw that tour out in L.A. I lived in L.A. at the time.
Oh, okay.
I saw them, and I really, to be honest with you, I was a little sort of like wondering how the thing would play out because Living Colour opened.
With Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses played, and this
Wow.
is Guns N' Roses with the original lineup.
That's
Hell of a
right.
bill.
Steve
Oh my God.
Adler. Steve Adler was still
That's
with them.
right.
And they're riding the crest of perhaps one of the greatest rock albums ever. Certainly the greatest rock album in a long, long time. With Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
And Living Colour with Vernon Reid was like tearing it up. And I was like thinking like, what are the Stones thinking? Putting themselves on the bill with two like red hot bands, like all fired up. And I'll be honest, Stones blew them both away.
Yeah.
Really?
Blew
Fearless.
them both away.
Fearless.
Far away. Left them in the dust.
Fearless, the world's greatest rock and roll band.
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
Fearless.
I was a big fan of Living Colour's first couple albums, especially, and I thought, these guys are going to take the Stones to school, and no, not exactly.
But
And
they opened
Slash-
up for the Stones, right? Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
that was the running order, Living Colour, and then but the
Guns N'
Stones
Roses,
just
right.
like tore them up, really. So I mean, what's some of the things that you've
By the
seen?
way, I worked with Living Colour also. I sang on both their records.
Oh,
All
you
three
did?
of their records.
Well, Mick produced, I know, the first one, right? He just sort of discovered
Yes,
them, right?
kind of, yeah.
And Type off of their second album is one of my favorite all-time riffs. Stereotype, do-do-do-do-do-do. That riff is one of my all-time favorite riffs by far. But tell us about like this sort of like the arc of your experiences with them over the many years. How have they changed, morphed? How's the set different and all that kind of
Well,
stuff?
the set's always a little different. I mean, look, there are songs they have to play. No question about it. You cannot get away from some of these songs. People gotta hear these songs before they leave.
Like Lady Jane.
No,
I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
well, that has been in the set at times.
Really?
Oh yes, we have done that. So every tour they try to do some songs that they haven't done before, and arcs. I mean, there's been a few. Cuba was huge. Huge, the Stones in Cuba, free concert for, 950,000 people.
Wow.
What year was this?
That was what, maybe 6-7 years ago, and
Beautiful.
and before that, Copacabana Beach with the Rolling Stones. 1.5 million people.
Oh, wow.
You could not see the end of the people. They went on forever.
Did they obscure the Jesus statue?
The
Like
whole,
Right.
oh man! I mean, the hotel. The main streets to the left, where the hotels are. Streets
Yeah.
are full.
Right.
The beach is full.
Wow.
You look out into the ocean, and it's full of boats. Look, there were so many people. There were so many people there that they had to build a bridge from the hotel over the street to the stage. That's how many people. So Ox, it's just been incredible. And as far as the band, you know, look, the band is tighter now than ever. I've been there a long time. They're playing so. I'm telling you, I keep telling people they play better now than they did when I got involved.
Wow. Wow.
Is Keith Richards on the patch now?
On the what
Is there a
patch?
heroin patch?
he's a chain smoker.
Oh well, I read that also that he was trying to quit smoking, but you know, I don't know what he does in his
I don't
room
think
at
he should
night,
quit.
but you know.
That's
Well,
his
you
moniker,
were with
man.
the Expensive Winos also for a time. His side band.
No,
second solo album.
I
Is that
wish
what
I was, but I did sing on the second solo Keith Richards project, Main Offender.
Main Offender. That's
During the first record, Talk is Cheap,
Talk is Cheap.
when he was making that record, I was producing a record for Ronnie Wood.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't be in two places at one time, and I remember leaving there.
But
You
Steve
know,
Jordan drummed on.
but dig this. I finished the record. I finished Ronnie's record. I get to the airport. I'm on the plane and I'm sitting next to this cat. I'm looking at this cat. I'm like, this cat looks familiar. I started talking to him. I said, "You guitar player?" Yeah. What's your name? Wally Wachtel.
Oh,
I said, "Oh yeah." I said something about Steve, and he said, "Well, Steve's going to meet me at the airport." So I get off the plane. Steve's there. And he says, "Yo, man, I got Keith's car. We have to drive past your house. I'll take you home." So he's taking me home, and he's playing "Talk Is Cheap,"
Nice.
and I'm listening
Which is
to
a great
this.
album, by the way.
I'm going
Great
crazy. I'm like, "Steve, I've got to be on this record." He said, "I can't, man." He said, "No, we're just looking for somebody to sing we're looking for a woman to sing the duet with Keith, and the record is done." I'm like, "Oh my God, this record is so good."
Oh yeah, it was greasy too. It
Oh
was,
yes.
Yeah, it had a real vibe to it. But the one that you were on is pretty good too.
Oh yes, Slide on This. That is a great record.
Yeah.
Ronnie really played his butt off on that record.
Yeah,
Slide on
I've
This.
got a couple of Ronnie Wood solo albums. Always fun. Always a fun listen.
Speaking of Steel Wheels, are we ever going to hear Mixed Emotions on one of these things?
You know what? We did play it at rehearsal.
Okay.
We played it at rehearsal, so it's very possible.
All right.
It's very possible.
Now, what's it like in your life, just to sort of as a musician, to have experienced and to continue to experience life at the musical apex? I mean, there's never been anybody bigger than the Stones, and you do that. Now, how does it inform your own creative process of having the energy and the vitality that must occur through that type of life journey? How does it inform your life? How does it inform your creative spirit?
I'm inspired. I'm inspired by what they do. You know, I said this the other day, that one thing that I definitely get from them is that if you love what you do, you can do it for a long time at a very high level.
That's right.
At a very high level. And they're still doing it, you know, at a very high level.
If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
No.
There you go.
No. And, you know, it's great. I have the best of both worlds. You know, I work with the world's greatest rock and roll band, but I can walk outside.
Yeah. That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't have to walk around with a bodyguard. I feel sorry for them sometimes with that, but I'm grateful that I don't have to do that.
Well, that's good. Now, you said earlier in the interview that you're always thinking ahead creatively. So I don't want to take too much attention away from, you know, now that you're doing the official album release party. Publicly might not be, but what do you got, you know, that you've been having, that you've been keeping on the back burner that's coming up next?
Well, okay, so the Bora.
Yes.
My solo record before this record, Inside Out, I have to make a follow-up to that record.
Oh, okay.
So I'm starting to write for that record. And this record, Inside Out, has been received so well that I'm starting to plan the next spoken word record.
Oh,
and
wow.
I will tell you something that I decided that I'm going to do. I have a friend in Uruguay. There's a rhythm in Uruguay called candombe. He is a master candombe player and candombe drum builder.
Uh-huh.
His name is Lobo Nunez. I'm flying to Uruguay to have Mr. Nunez and his sons do some tracks for me for the next spoken word record.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
It's
Right
going.
to the source again.
I'm going to the source, baby.
Eso es, papi.
Oh,
Ya tú
yeah.
sabes. Ya tú sabes.
I'm going in deep.
Nice.
I'm going deeper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. Right on. So, yeah, more power to you.
And you know, I've been toying around with this idea of doing a record with an orchestra.
Oh, okay.
And I did a gig in Norway with a piano player who happened to be friends with Gino Vanelli.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I
And he
remember.
called me and he said, "Hey, man."
That guy was a powerful voice.
Yeah, he says, "Listen, Gino Vanelli wants to do a record with you." And I'm like, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, he wants to do a record with you and like the Montreal Philharmonic."
Wow.
And I thought, wait a minute, I was just thinking about doing a record like that for myself. It's in the stars.
There you go.
It's got to happen.
Gino Vanelli. That's I haven't heard him in a while, but I remember back in the day he did have a powerful voice.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of producing now. You know, not so much in the pop world. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll end up doing that record with him, but you know, I will eventually do that record.
An orchestra. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Now, while I was doing some research for you, looking up, in addition to the Smurfs, your
Don't you-
iconic work.
I got a feeling I know what you're gonna say next. Go on.
I saw that you worked with Steven
I
Seagal.
knew you were.
Oh,
Now, I
man.
came up with real fast and to finish things off. We got a couple more guests. That we need to I could seriously. I mean, if you'd ever be generous enough with your time and coming back through Chicago, I would be so
Hey, man,
gratified
you
if
just-
you could make this a regular stop on your journeys.
You can count on it.
Oh, well, so that's-
You
that's
can
great to hear.
count
Well, I'm
on
getting
it,
chills now
man. You
myself.
you just wrecked me, man.
Oh, right on.
You wrecked me. Thank you so much.
Well, before we go, I got a quiz for you that I wrote for you about you. I call this.
Get ready, Bernard.
I'm
Let me
not
pull
sure-
my hat down tighter.
I call this a Bernard Fowler quiz.
Go.
Okay, just I thought I'd keep it simple. Okay, so
Okay.
here's a multiple choice. I didn't want to embarrass anybody, and it's more basically instinct rather than intellectual anything like that. But here we go. Question number 1: name a member of the Rolling Stones who you, Bernard Fowler, have not worked on a solo album with.
Bill Wyman.
Not.
Bill
No,
Wyman.
I'll get it's multiple
Oh,
choice.
okay.
A. Mick Jagger. B. Charlie Watts. Or C. Brian Jones.
Brian Jones.
Correct. Brian Jones never did a solo album. And he was dead before you knew it.
That's right.
That was a low hanger right there.
All right.
Pretty softball. All right, question number 2. Name a style of music that you've never incorporated into your own creative endeavors, your own solo work. A. 70s era vintage nasty funk. B. Riff-oriented rock. Or C. Dog whistle orchestras, music for dogs.
Dog whistle music.
Dog whistle music, correct! Oh my God, 2 for 2. This is he could run the table on this one.
I brought my dog whistle with me. Here, listen.
Question number 3. What Stone songs did you not cover for your latest solo album, Inside Out? Which Stone songs did you not cover on Inside Out? A. Dancing with Mr. D. If you've listened to any part of this interview, Bernard, you probably have a leg up on most of it. A. Dancing with Mr. D. B. Undercover of the Night. Or C. Country Honk.
Ooh, that's
It's
tricky.
a noodle scratcher. By the way, if you do want to scratch your noodle, I would be, grateful if you did that.
I did. I was under the table. I think it's honk.
That's correct. Wow, 3 for 3. There's only one question left.
You really know your career.
You really know Bernard Fowler. All right, here it is.
All right.
Where did I go? Which of the following is an actual tune by Steven Seagal and not just one of his catchphrases from his movies. Which the following is an actual tune by Steven Seagal, who actually did music.
Oh, man.
With Bernard.
Oh, you dirty
He wants to
dog.
I got a bottle of whiskey in the
Dirty
tank. Don't worry, bro.
dog.
A, I'm going to take you to the bank, Senator Trent, to the blood bank. B, girl, it's all right. C, I'm just the cook. Or this one's got a D, as in Dancing with Mr. D, by the way. Anyone else want to play with Cupcake? Anyone else want to play with Cupcake? Which one is an actual song title?
When I worked with him, I never
not
talked
a
to him
catchphrase.
I didn't talk to him that much, so I'm just going to guess and say B.
B's correct!
What?
Oh, you got it! Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He got it. Oh. That's a sweet, man.
Bernard, I have a cookie prize sack that I dig through to get gifts for all of our guests.
Do I get to get a mustache like you?
Well, I don't think I brought the grease paint. We can do a tattoo. Are you down? I got you this wonderful My Life with Ben Carson.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that to my worst enemy.
Too bad you didn't get it on audiobook with Ben Carson narrating.
Oh my God,
That would be the
even
most
worse.
boring.
Oh my
And we-
God,
We
kill
talked,
me.
we talked mostly business. We didn't really get down to some of the own personal interests and stuff like that. So I got some choices for you. I got either you could do the Ren and Stimpy action figures. Ren and Stimpy.
Throwback.
I've got a Romulan, vintage Romulan action figure from the Star Trek thing. I've got a music-oriented gift. It's the press kit from the movie Great Balls of Fire, featuring a wide. Actually, the press kit part of it's missing. It's just a bunch of glossy 8x10s of
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Great balls of fire.
what's his name?
Jerry.
Dennis
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis
Quaid.
Braun.
Dennis
That's right.
Quaid.
Yeah.
Or I could put the inflatable pink flamingo. Which
Oh.
one do you prefer?
Oh my goodness.
Flamingo. Calling your name.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Star Trek it is. A Romulan action figure from the Imperial enemy of the Federation.
There it
Those
is.
You would be
bastards.
wonderful.
There it
Yes,
is.
the Flabby
Oh,
Hoffman
man.
Extravaganza. Live
Oh.
long and perspire.
Perspire.
Is our
That's a good one.
that's our motto. Flabby Hoffman show. May you wear and be wonderful. Yours is a gift for having provided us the warm glow of success for your joining in on our show.
Thank
I can't
you
tell
so much for
how
having
grateful I
me.
am
This
that you
was a
stopped by.
treat, man.
It was same for me. And
was a
and we'll
treat.
see you tonight.
Tonight at
All right.
Martyrs, 8:30, and that's 3855 North Lincoln.
Come on down, have a listen.
And again, as a lifelong musician, the Flabby Trio and everything like that. meeting
Right
somebody
on.
who's
And
doing
no, I
music
got to
that
check
you've
out the
done.
Flabby Trio now.
Now, I could. I don't want to be crass or anything, but I could give you a disc. I don't want to.
You
be,
better.
Oh,
Oh,
I got
okay.
you.
Ooh.
A copy. If I dig around.
Which album? If you could give away one Flabby Hoffman album,
The
which would
one
it be?
Flabby album to own has got to be Coup de Tatas. Because
Of course.
it's got, you know, you're talking about a lot of social change, a lot of political convictions, and you're doing music that harkens back to a time when people were speaking to truth to power. And this album definitely does that. It's our triple disc set. There's a.
I can't wait to hear
Here
that.
you go.
Thank you again.
And please, if in any way gives you even the slightest bit of inspiration that you've given to me and so many others throughout the years, it would be a gift to me to know that.
I'm sure it will.
And it's also, I'll give you, I'll put you in the note, so I don't want to. There's a lyric book in there, 24-page book, 'cause it's a 3-disc set.
good.
But all the lyrics are fake. I wrote a whole new set. I wrote a whole new set of fake lyrics just as a joke.
Smart.
Awesome.
Get the sin off the trail, man.
I don't want to fool you. I
That
want you
is
in on the joke.
awesome.
Very cool, man.
Awesome. Well, now everybody knows.
Now everybody.
Now everybody
that's
knows.
listening. Anyway, Bernard Fowler, ladies
Bernard
and gentlemen.
Fowler.
All right, thank you so much.